I'm saying, are you ready?
Hello and welcome. I am Shane Moore, and this is the Texorcist Live. Anyway, tonight we'll be talking about a very popular topic, very interesting subject, one of the most favorite of all listeners, the Rh negative blood type, the enigma, the mystery, the unanswered questions, the theories. We'll go in depth about Rh negative and Rh null blood types, and is there an angelic connection to these blood types? They are rare. We will discuss how rare. The Rh negative blood type makes up 15% of the population, and the Rh null is the most rare, with only 44 people known to have it worldwide. The question is are those with Rh negative blood targeted and monitored by the powers that be? And if so, and it seems like they are, why? There are different projects, different government projects that have been talked about in conspiracy circles, such as Project Oak Tree and different things, different code names like that. I'm not sure if there's any truth to that, but it wouldn't surprise me. Anyway, we'll be taking this wild ride together and be taking your questions, your comments, your personal experiences via the live chat. And I would appreciate it if you would participate, especially on this topic, because there is no doubt that we, as being Rh negative people, those with Rh negative blood, I'm one of the anomalies, I guess. I happen to have Rh null, and I'll explain how I found that out later, but I guarantee you it is not boring. It was not boring. It was rather exciting, to say the least. But something that it seemed like I was in a movie, or it was so surreal, absolutely crazy, which you'll just have to hear it to know exactly what I'm talking about. I would encourage you to share your experiences also, and you don't necessarily have to be Rh negative, because you can be Rh positive and carry the Rh negative recessive genes, and that's basically what I tell people is usually when I meet someone that is Rh negative, I usually know they are. Now, there have been a few that I've met that I thought they were Rh negative, and they said they were positive, only to find out that they carried both Rh negative recessive genes. So that explains that. Now, one thing that I will say is that there have been people that I have that have been Rh positive that I thought were negative, and they had both recessive genes, and they weren't such nice people. Now, on the same side of that coin, I've met some Rh negative people that weren't so nice. So there's many people that fall into this this rut of saying, okay, we as Rh negative people, we are better than, or we are more powerful than, or we're a level up from Rh positives, and or vice versa. And I'm just saying, look, it's not a contest. We're all here to do what we're all here to do. So the best way to do it is together. Hey, Jacob, my brother from another mother, thank you for being here. Can always count on Jacob, my Texas brother. By the way, coming to you straight out of Texas. This is the Texorcist. And I'm solo now. So I just want to let everyone know that no longer have a co-host. I wish her the best. It was nothing bad or anything. It just she's moved on to bigger, better things, and I wish her the best, and wish her success in all of her endeavors. So anyway, back to the topic at hand. I will be talking about different verses in the Bible that Jacob 11:11. Here you go. I will be talking about verses in the Bible that tell about this these angelic beings, and when I say that, I use that term loosely. It's more like interdimensional entities. And when I say that, I'm really talking about what I believe to be advanced beings, entities using very advanced technology, like holograms, quantum computing, quantum tunneling, hyper-dimensional travel, just things that we can't even comprehend. And it's when you read the Bible, when you read Genesis literally, it doesn't make much sense. It's like reading a fairy tale. I mean, people say, "There's no way I'm going to believe that." Well, you know what? I don't blame you. I wouldn't believe it either. Come on. I mean, yeah. But if you read it the way it's written, the way it's meant to be read, metaphorically, there's a lot of truth, a lot there that is just in your face, and it makes sense if you can read between the lines. It's not really on the surface. You have to dig for it, but truth is, or finding answers is a reward that, for that. So, but there's different things I want to read now as far as the traits of those with Rh negative blood. And just to add to this, there are, geneticists, there are biologists that they say that 4% of the human genome, 4%, is what they call Nephilim DNA. Nephilim DNA. And that's Nephilim. Zecharia Sitchin, for those of you who read his books and everything. Zecharia Sitchin was a, he was a good guy. I have nothing against Zecharia Sitchin. But Zecharia Sitchin, I don't know if he purposefully or unknowingly, he kind of stretched things a little bit. Hey, April, glad you joined us. Zecharia Sitchin really stretched things. Like he said that Nephilim meant. Let me find exactly what he says here, and it's very dangerous whenever you start to look for things. Well, we're glad you're here, especially on this topic. So thank you very much, and feel free just to add what you want. Speak freely, but he says. Zecharia Sitchin says that the word Nephilim means those who came down from above, or those who descended to earth, or people of the fiery rockets. Okay, that's a lot. That's a lot from one word. That it means those who came down from above, or could mean those who descended to earth, or people of the fiery rockets. Do you think he may be trying to fit a certain, fill a certain agenda? I think so, because it means none of those things. Matter of fact, the word Nephilim comes from the Hebrew word Naphal, Naphal, which usually means to fall. That's all it means, to fall. But Zecharia Sitchin forces the meaning to, quote, to come down, creating his to come down from above translation. And then he gets into the ancient astronaut theory and all of that, which I'm not against that. But I like to stick with the facts and not force anything. It's like, will a square peg, fit into a round hole? Well, yes. If you have a big enough hammer and you swing hard enough, of course it will. But is it right? No. Does it belong there? No. So, matter of fact, Zecharia Sitchin goes to I believe it's the Dead Sea Scrolls, where he takes a word that is written in Aramaic and he gives it a Hebrew definition, because the Hebrew definition is better, explains things better as far as his story about those from the fiery rockets and all of that. Anyway, The Hebrew language is very complex, to say the least. It has a just one dot, one jot, one tittle, and it changes the entire word. So you have to be very, very careful with that. And then the Aramaic is a dead language, so there's not very many scholars out there that can sit down and read Aramaic just right offhand, or there's not many that I know of. But also in the past, I got a lot of flack for this when I said that the Bible's speaking metaphorically, talking about the giants, that I don't believe that it was talking about giants that were 3,000 feet tall, or I think it was says in some accounts that there were giants that were 3,000 ells, which would be like 3,000 feet tall. It's just, no. And then there's people that say, well, there were, giants that were 50 feet tall, 40 feet, and 20 feet, and 15, and, and I'm saying, no. Maybe 8 feet, okay? Maybe. Jacob, you're right. You say the thing about history is that it's written by the winner, so it's not always exactly accurate. That is correct. That's right. And a lot of things have been changed in history to for one agenda or another. I mean, it's all about control. And what I find very interesting, very fascinating, but also very unsettling, to say the least, is that here we are knocking on the door of 2020, and you can ask any doctor, any geneticist, any biologist, what is the origin of Rh negative blood? What's the origin of Rh null blood? And they have no idea. It is unknown. They don't know. It's my belief that they know, they're just not talking, which is even more unsettling. But I just want to say that the word Nephilim occurs in Genesis 6:4 and in Numbers 13:33. The two occurrences where it's Nephilim, but it's actually in Aramaic the noun Nephil, it means giant, but it's talking about a spiritual giant, or a charismatic, I guess is the best way I can describe someone who is making a name for themselves, someone who is let's just talk about this. It says here, Genesis chapter 6 verse 4, it says, the Nephilim were on the earth in those days, and also afterward, when the sons of God came into the daughters of men, and they bore children to them. Those were the mighty men who were of old, men of renown. And that word renown literally means men of a name. They made a name for themselves. They were well known. I mean, it's like rock stars, I mean, they, and I literally have had people send me emails and messages saying, you don't know what you're talking about, I know that that the land, I know the land of Canaan was full of giants. And I'm like, okay, were you there? Were you there? And this one woman, she's telling me, she was really sweet. She was like, I hope you die. I hope you stay dead. I wish you were already dead. And I was like, oh, there you go, sweet talking me. Come on, bring it. Come on, you can do better than that. And she just keeps on and on and on. And it's over this. It's because I don't believe that there were like literal giants, And it's a metaphor. It's metaphor. It's figurative. It's not literal. I mean, think about it. The Robert Wadlow, the tallest man that ever lived, he was like was damn near 9 feet tall, okay? All right, the guy lived to barely be 22 years old. Why? Because his feet and his leg, his knees could not support his stature. And we're talking about somebody that's not even 9 feet tall. So when you're talking about somebody that, like this one woman told me, she says, well, I know that in Oklahoma and Arizona that there were giant Indians that were 25 feet tall. And I said, okay, so you were there, right? Well, no, my grandmother saw them. Look, if you didn't see them, if you did not see them in person yourself, I'm sorry, but, Grandma could have been told that. And it'd just be passed down to where you believe it. And yeah, this woman was, she was unstable at best. I mean, over giants. Hey, I'm just saying that if that was the case, how could, and we're all adults here, so I'm just going to say this, but it says that when the sons of God came into the daughters of men and they bore children to them, it means they literally had sexual intercourse with them. So tell me how that could take place unless it was, number one, the size, the size of the entity, the size of the man, entity, the man, angel, hybrid, whatever you want to call it, and genetically, because there had to be some, she had to her DNA had to accept that angelic hybrid DNA, right? Otherwise, there would be no children. They would bear no children. And if the children were anywhere near the size that people, that a lot of people talk about, it would never happen. It would be impossible. Let's see. Jacob, you say, when the Israelites were wandering in the desert, Moses sent spies into the land. They reported back that the inhabitants of the land were so big that they were like grasshoppers in the giants and in their own eyes. Right. I'm glad you said that, because that's Numbers 13:33, which is what I was going to cover, because I've had people say, well, yeah, they saw them and they came back and said that, that they were like grasshoppers in their own eyes. That's basically saying, could be saying, yes, they're bigger, they're stronger, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they were literal giants. I'm talking at that time in, Canaan, Palestine, whatever. A man that was 6'6" would be deemed a giant. Just, because if you look at the average height of a man back at that time, it was like 5'6". I mean, not huge. I mean, so a man that was like 5'6" next to a man that's like 6 foot or 6'6", man, you feel like you're next to a giant. I mean, I'm 5'10", and had a cousin that was 6'10", who's a foot taller, and damn, I felt like I was next to a giant. I mean, I had to look up to him. And let's see. Hey, Cheryl, glad you're here. Let's see. April, you say, do you believe that some in the Bible lived to be 300 or so years old? What's your take on that? I believe so, but I'm not really sure about that. I believe that it has something to do with the rotation of the Earth, because now keep in mind, time is an illusion. Einstein proved that. Time is an illusion, he says, albeit a persistent one. What you have is you have something that happened that knocked the Earth off of its axis. I believe it's 23.5 degrees off of its axis, correct? And I believe that it slowed the rotation of the Earth down, which would explain why that some people live to be 300, or 900, like Methuselah and Adam, and because the Earth was rotating possibly faster before it was impacted, so if you look at that, if you read about that, there's so much that has been hidden or that's been kept secret about the tilt of the Earth, the 23.5 degree tilt. And so if you think about it, if the Earth was rotating, at a greater, faster rate, then time may have went by quicker, but it would be the measurement of time. That's what I'm trying to say. So did they live longer? Yes, I believe so. Did they live that much longer? Maybe not. Maybe it was just how time was measured. And how do we measure time? We measure time by the sun comes up, the sun goes down, and it's all cyclical. So maybe that's why. Cheryl, you say, did they specifically say how giant the giants were? Oh, I've had people tell me, that there were giants that were found in the Grand Canyon. Of course, I read these stories when I was a kid. I was all over that stuff. I love that stuff. And, red-haired giants, 12, 15 feet tall. But they were taken by the Smithsonian and, hidden. My question is okay, why would they hide giant, skeletons? Well, you're welcome, April. So it's like, why would the Smithsonian hide giant skeletons? I mean, that would be something that I would put on display. Well, these people come on and they say, well, it's because they would have to go back and redo the history books. And I'm like, who are you? I mean, come on. Come on. You're telling me they found all these giant skeletons. No, I'm going to get hate mail over this. I don't care. You're telling me they find giant skeletons with red hair in the Grand Canyon, caves in the Grand Canyon, and they hide these skeletons, and they don't talk about them because they don't want to go back and have to redo the history books? Your imagination level is about like your shoe size. I mean, come on. You can do better than that. Good grief. The truth is, people, there were giant skulls found in Ohio that had horns coming out, it's like, they had horns coming out of them and stuff, Okay, great. Where are they? Show me. It's like, show me the money, Jerry Maguire. Show me the skulls. Show me the skeletons. It's just not there. It's just not there. And those that say, well, I've seen the pictures. Oh, wow. You've seen movies too, like Jurassic Park, Okay, do you believe that dinosaurs still roam the earth? I mean, come on. You've seen pictures. They're pictures. And just so you'll know, after that, I did a lot of research into these pictures of these giants. And I guarantee you, every one of them, if you look close enough, you'll find out that every one of those pictures that you see with the giant skull, with the man, he looks like that he could crawl in this skull's mouth. I mean, that's how big it is. And he has a brush or a broom, and he's sweeping the skull. If you look, it was a contest. It was a contest of graphic engineers on who could literally make the most realistic giant skeleton to where people would believe it. The only thing is some of the better ones, their work got into the public sector, and people were like, oh my God, I knew it was true. Hey, Mona, okay, please be careful driving home. Do not let my humor cause you to have an accident, please. Or my charm, or my voice. And I am kidding. Mona's getting sick right now. Yeah. Let's see, April, you say, why do they want us to believe that? They really didn't, and that's just it. Oh, you mean the giant lovers? I don't know. I don't have any idea. But they have pegged me as the Antichrist because I don't believe in giants. I don't believe it. Goliath, I believe, may have been just like Jacob. You say he had 6 fingers, 6 toes. It's the Bible says that. Okay, Goliath was possibly suffered from, I think, from what Andre the Giant, suffered from. And I forget what the term is, but Yeah, he's huge. Okay, well, to Middle Eastern, people of that day, yeah, you put Andre the Giant out there, and you're going to have it's going to be like, whoa, Saul, the king of Israel at that time, he goes back and he's like, whoa, boys, we got a problem. Yeah, we got a problem, big time, and yeah, so I mean, it would be like, even to this day, there were people that said that Andre the Giant was 7 foot, 7'4", and was like 550 pounds. Okay, the truth is, and I read this just the other day, and I'm not sure if it's true or not, but it stands to reason. They said he was more like 6'11" and probably weighed like 450. Okay, well, it doesn't matter. I don't want him grabbing me. I mean, I don't want him picking me up, slamming me down. So it's like, when you get to when you get 6'10", 6'11", 7 foot tall, what does it matter to add a foot, half a foot? I mean, it's just, yes, Goliath had, I think that he had gigantism, megalochromia, I believe is what it's called, or something like that. Where here, let me find it here. But they're, those that suffer from it, they have their it's a chromegaly. I'm sorry, I'm probably butchering that. Yes, giantism. It's a disorder that causes the body to secrete excessive amounts of growth hormones and produces continual growth, especially in the head, hands, and feet. Okay, so that's what I was talking about. Just like Robert Wadlow, the man that was like 8'11", his head, his hands, his feet, they grew so large. He just grew so large that his legs, that his knees could not acromegaly. Oh, thank you, Cheryl. I still butchered it. Just call me the butcher. How about just giantism? I just flows off my tongue a lot better. Anyway, yes. So, but it says that, but you can see where that, there's been people that said, well, Goliath was 8 foot, he was 12 foot. Do we really know? Will we ever know? No, we won't. But for those people that say that the land of Canaan was full of giants, you can't back that up. I mean, come on. You say, well, they've done archaeological digs and there's just skeletons everywhere. Really? Where are they? Show me. Not these fake pictures, not these pictures that, if you read the fine print, it says this is not real. This is staged. This is it's fake. I mean, come on. Show me. And there's people that say, well, there's this guy in Texas down at Glen Rose, and he has this femur bone of this. Nothing against the guy, but my God, you cannot tell me that you cannot, in this day and age, you cannot make something like that and it be fake. But anyway, Off the Giants. Off the Giants. Back to the different blood types. The Rh positive, the Rh negative, and the Rh null. Okay, where does it, when there is a mutation, when a species or mutates. Okay, the blood is going to be the last thing to mutate. So it's like that is not going to be a mutation. If you think about it, what would it benefit the blood to mutate? There's really nothing to gain, especially with Rh null, which was unknown until 1961 when it was first discovered. It has no antigens, which means that there were people that were wondering when it was discovered, how is this person even alive? Because the antigens is what basically sets off your immune system. So if it's a mutation, then it would be a loss. You would have everything to lose, nothing to really gain. So it's not a mutation for those that say that it's just a mutation. No, it's not just. Let's see, Jacob, you say Paul White, Big Show 6'10", weighs 490. Cheryl, you say my late fiance died from complications from acro. Oh, really? Same disease Andre the Giant died from. Yes. 8 foot is big enough. Seems like a giant to me. Absolutely. It's like I said, my cousin was 6'10", and looking up, to him, I mean, it's like, wow. I mean, he seemed like a giant to me. But in the Bible, now just tell me, those of you that are taking part in the live chat, tell me if this sounds strange, okay? Or it says, then God said, "Let us make man in our image, according to our likeness, and let them rule over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the sky, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps on the earth. And God created man in his own image. In the image of God he created him. Male and female he created them. And God blessed them, and God said to them, be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth and subdue it and rule over it and over every living thing that moves on the earth." And but then that was Genesis chapter 1 verses 26 and 27. Then in chapter 2 in verse 7 is the creation of man and woman. A second account. Then the Lord God formed man of the dust from the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living being. Okay. So there are two different accounts. The only difference is that in one account there's something missing in the first account, and that is that breath of life from the Lord God. Okay? What does that sound like? Because I'm just saying, there's a difference there. There's a difference. In Genesis 1, 26, 27, and Genesis 2, 7. And that difference is when it says the Lord God, it's actually, it says, Genesis 1:26, then God said, that word God in Hebrew actually is Elohim, which is plural, and it's feminine. It's plural, and it's feminine. But it says, God created man in his own image. In the image of God, he created him. Male and female, he created them. So, there you go. I mean, I've had women say, oh my God, I am so sick of hearing about man was created first. I'm like, okay, take a chill pill, slow down. It says man, he created him, male and female, he created them. And the actual term is plural, feminine, Elohim. And it says, then the Lord God, again, Elohim, the Hebrew word for God, formed man of the dust from the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life. And man became a living being. So, what does that mean, a living being? Well, I believe that it's that spark. It's that spiritual connection, that divine spark of life, and it goes back to the accounts in Sumer of Enki and Enlil, both the Sumerian gods. And I'm just putting this out there. I'm not saying it's true or false. I'm just going to let you make up your own mind. But I find it very, very telling that it says that Enki used some of his own divine DNA to give man, to give humans that divine spark, that breath of life. And then here in Genesis 2:7, it basically says the same thing. That's right. So the Jacob, you say mutations in nature never ever benefit; they always take away. That's why Darwinism is crap. Right. So yes, it's and the blood mutating. Oh man, I mean, it just would not work, and it would take forever. It takes so long for that to happen. I mean, we're talking thousands and thousands of years, if not more. But the Rh negative blood type seemingly appeared overnight. You know, when you look at history, the whole scheme of things, I mean, it just literally, boom, it just appears, there it is. Approximately 35,000 years ago. Now, there's people that say, well, I adhere to the 6,000-year-old timeline of the Bible, and I'm like, okay. That's fine. That's fine if you want to. But I don't. How do you explain the carbon dating of, rocks and things that are millions of, if not billions of years old? And they say, well, it's a ploy of the devil. And I'm like, no, it's not. Because the Bible speaks of times before Adam and Eve. But the problem is, and I'm not talking down about anybody, I'm just saying, the problem is that some people, they want to talk about the Bible. They want to talk about their beliefs and what they believe and how strong they believe. But they lack knowledge. That's just it. They lack knowledge. They don't know what they're talking about. And so the 6,000 year account doesn't hold up. Not even in the most general sense. Okay, you're telling me that 6,000 years ago, that man was created, or man appeared, and here we are now. I don't think so. Come on. Jacob, you say, then in the next part it says, God took a man into the garden, named every beast and fish on the earth, and then God created Eve from his rib. 2 different men, 2 different women. Yes, I believe that is the case. I believe that I don't think that it was just a man and woman. I believe that it was a people that was created. I believe that it was a people, but the first, something was wrong, something was missing, something wasn't right, or maybe it just, I don't know. But in Genesis 2, there's something added, which is from the Creator himself, itself, whatever, the breath of life, that was not given to the first creation. Okay. Now, it also says that when after the first man and woman were created, it says in Genesis 2, chapter 5, it says, there was no man to cultivate the ground. Now, what the Sumerian tablets say is that man was created by mixing DNA with primate DNA. Hello, rhesus factor, rhesus monkey, to produce a worker to mine gold. And those of you that have read about the tablets, the Sumerian tablets, you know that they were mining gold, and this is not something that is new. It's like the book of Ecclesiastes, supposedly written by Solomon, but we know how that goes. Probably written by somebody that was just using his name, but very, very intelligent and knew what he was talking about, or she was talking about. It says, there's nothing new under the sun. Matter of fact, I'm going to read that because it is absolutely mind-boggling because it's so profound. This is Ecclesiastes chapter 1. And just, bear with me. I'm not preaching to anybody. It says, a generation goes and a generation comes, but the earth remains forever. Also the sun rises, the sun sets, and hastening to its place, it rises there again. Blowing toward the south, then turning toward the north, the wind continues swirling along, and on its circular courses the wind returns. All the rivers flow into the sea, yet the sea is not full. To the place where the rivers flow, there they flow again. All things are wearisome. Man is not able to tell it. Man is not able to recognize it. The eye is not satisfied with seeing, nor is the ear filled with hearing. Now this is what I'm talking about. Verses 9 through 11. That which has been is that which will be, and that which has been done is that which will be done. So there is nothing new under the sun. Is there anything of which one might say, see this, it is new? Already it has existed for ages, which were before us. There is no remembrance of earlier things, and also of the later things which will occur. There will be for them no remembrance among those who will come later still. There is no remembrance of earlier things. What did he just get through talking about? About cycles. The sun rises, the sun sets. The wind blows toward the south and turning toward the north. It swirls around on its circular courses. The rivers flow into the sea, yet the sea is not full. There they flow again. Talking about cycles. Then it's talking about the remembrance of the cycles. Could it be cycles that you've already been through? Could it be that you're not here right now to make choices? That you've already made your choices? You're just here now to understand why you made the choices you made? And that this isn't your first time here? You may have been here many times. Whoa. And Jesus said, he says, for those, they said, okay, when will Elijah return? Elijah the prophet. Jesus said, for those who can accept it. John the Baptist was Elijah. Whoa. Whoa. Let's, you won't hear that in many churches preached or explained. Yeah, that sounds a little bit like reincarnation, right? Yeah, he says, for those who can accept it. So even at that time, there was a problem, with that. He says, for those that can accept it, John the Baptist was Elijah. So he did, he did return. But I believe in genetic memory. I believe that we all have it. We all have, genetic memory, and that it's in every cell. It's in our very DNA. So, but let me read to you the traits of those with Rh negative blood, and I'm not saying that we're better, we're higher, we're nothing like that. And I discourage that kind of thinking because it can very quickly become very bad. So if anything, I think that we're here to that negatives positives are here to sharpen each other, to learn from each other. Because, with me, when it comes to, helping someone, I'm not going to say, okay, what's your blood type? I'm going to be there. I'm going to help the person. Traits, green, blue, or hazel eyes. Okay, with green being the most rare. Maybe 1% out of the population. Blue being next and hazel being after that. Red hair or the red hair gene, where you have red hair or that you have the red hair gene where your body produces the phenotype for the red hair. Now keep in mind that it says in the Bible that Adam was ruddy. He was red. It also says that Absalom, King David's son, had red hair, long red hair. The Merovingian kings in southern France, actually southern Gaul, that at that time, they had long red hair. And the Merovingians were Rh negative blood type, actually from the tribe of Dan, which is the tribe that you don't find in the book of Revelation in the list of tribes. Why? Because, well, hate to be the bearer of bad news, but tribe of Dan is where the Antichrist comes from. But what I want to say is that people say, okay, the Watchers fell, and they're bad. No. 200 Watchers fell. 200 angelic beings, entities of the Watcher class of angels fell. Not all of the Watchers fell. There were more than just 200. There were 200 that the Bible says were posted, if you will, on Mount Hermon, which is on the border of Israel, Syria, and Lebanon, a three-tier mountain range, three-peaked mountain range, that when you look at the three pyramids in Egypt, there's the three peaks of Mount Hermon, and you can look that up. I believe that was in homage to Mount Hermon, where these Watcher angels, interdimensional beings, descended and mated with human women and brought turmoil into the genetic pool. Traits: pale skin, sensitivity to sunlight, astigmatism, extra vertebrae in the spine, sometimes a patch where no hair grows on the neckline called a stork bite. You know how the stork supposedly carries the baby by the neck, and yeah, Jacob, he says, I'm Rh negative, I have long hair. Some are born with a caudal appendage, a tail that is now when a baby's born with a caudal appendage, at least in the United States, it's usually removed and nothing's said about it. They tend to be very spiritual, have a lower body temperature, higher than average IQ, higher blood pressure, elevated intuition, heightened awareness of their surroundings, able to sense things before they happen. They feel a general connection to the spiritual realm, and some are able to sense and identify negative entities, negative energy, aka demons, if you want to go that far. So, does that sound familiar with anyone listening? Okay. Yes, Jacob. I'm talking about the tail, the caudal appendage. And you say also the highest altitude UN headquarters on the Earth is located on top of Mount Hermon. You are correct. Absolutely. And Mount Hermon is 33.33 longitude, 33.33 latitude. And if you want to look up some of research on that, it's, let me find, let's see, the guy's name is David, gosh, I can't think of his name right now, but he puts Mount Hermon with Mount Hermon with the Roswell crash. David Flynn with the Roswell crash, and actually somehow he takes the coordinates and matches them up. It's just very, very strange, but you can look that up. Mount Hermon, Roswell crash, David Flynn, how he matches on the other side of the Earth where the watchers were supposedly put on Mount Hermon, and then the Roswell crash, they somehow match. If you drew a line through the Earth, it would be a straight line where they connect or whatever. It's just something to think about. Anyway, it says that God saw that man, says in chapter 6 verse 4, it says the Nephilim were on the earth in those days, and also afterward, when the sons of God came into the daughters of men, they bore children to them. Those were the mighty men who were of old, men of renown. And the Lord saw that the wickedness of man was great on the earth, and that every intent of his thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. The Lord was sorry that he had made man on the earth, and was grieved in his heart. And that kind of, we won't go there, but that's for another time. And the Lord said, I will blot out man whom I have created from the face of the land, from man to animals to creeping things and to birds of the sky, for I am sorry that I have made them. But Noah found favor in the eyes of the Lord. These are the records of the generations of Noah. Noah was a righteous man, blameless in his time. Noah walked with God. Okay, Noah was a righteous man, blameless in his ways, and that word blameless literally means that let's see here real quick, just make sure I get this right. It says he was a righteous man. Okay, well, the literal word for that is tzedek, and it means just, lawful, righteous, honest, right. doesn't mean perfect. It says Siddiq portrays an ordinary person who is honest with other men and obedient to the laws of God. However, even a just man is not sinless. But it's actually taken from a word, sadak, which means to be right in a moral or forensic sense, to clear oneself, to cleanse, to be straight, to be just, to be true, to be upright, to be righteous, to be in the right, to be justified. And so what it's saying is that there was something about Noah that was different. And it says he was a righteous man, blameless in his generations or his time. And that word blameless literally means complete, perfect, or having integrity. And that's what this is talking about, is he had something, there was something about him that was different, from every other man. Now, think about this. Let's see. Okay. Think about the Watchers. They were not wanting the Messiah. Now, I mean, we're just going by the Bible, what the Bible says. I'm not trying to convert anyone. I just if you were going to prevent the Messiah from being born, how would you go about preventing that? There's no better way than to corrupt the gene pool, correct? Because if you the entire gene pool of the human race, then a sinless, a pure Messiah cannot be born if that's the case. I mean, if you corrupt the DNA, it's just not going to happen. So Noah somehow had, it's pretty clear that Noah had something or lacked something that everyone else had, or he had something that no one else had, one or the other. But anyway, he was different. And in the book of Enoch, it says that when Noah was born, he was very pale, and his eyes shone like the sun, very bright. And I believe that it says that he had white hair, which sounds like he might have been albino. But he was so different that his father, Lamech, went and asked his grandfather Enoch. He said, I fear that Noah, I fear that my son is one of the Nephilim, seriously, he was concerned that his wife had been impregnated by the Nephilim, by the Watchers. And he was told by Enoch that no, he said he's your son. Now, I don't know. I mean, he was definitely different. So, I mean, what was different about him? That word Sadak. I find it very interesting, fascinating, that in Hebrew literature, Hebrew legend, Hebrew writings from the sages, the mystics, they have said that in any given generation, that there are 36 tzaddiks, holy men, some who have no idea that they're actually fulfilling that purpose. There are 36 that uphold the good and restrain the evil, and that is, let me see here, 36. Jewish tradition holds that each generation is saved by 36 righteous people. There is an old Jewish legend that every generation has 36 saints, Lamad, Vav, Nachum, on whose piety the fate of the world depends. The 36 just men who saved the world. It is my belief that Noah was the first Sadak, and I hope I'm saying that right. But anyway, Noah was the first one of these righteous men. And it's just Noah was in a world, but he was not of that world. You understand what I'm saying? And that's how I feel. I feel like I'm in this world, but I'm not of this world. I've always felt that way. And I'm sure that most of you that are listening that are RH negative, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You've never fit in. You've always felt like you're on the outside looking in. You just, you know that you have a mission, but you're not sure what that mission is, but nevertheless you do have one. And you know it. You can't explain how you know it, you just know it. Cheryl, you say, I can sense fake people within the first couple of minutes speaking to them. I feel as if I don't belong in this world and have said so since I was too little to even know what that means. I believe you, sister. Jacob says, Cheryl, sometimes I feel like I want to go home even when I am where I live. Jacob, Noah was of pure blood from the line of Adam. For all sin comes short of the glory of God. April, you say, I have brown eyes that can be dark brown to light brown, but not blue or green, but everything else sounds familiar. Well, there's brown-eyed people that are RH negative. I mean, it's just that that predominantly it's green or blue, hazel eyes. But Jacob, you're right. It says that his hair was like wool. Yes. Jacob talks about brown hazel eyes. He says he has green hazel eyes. They can either be blue or green, but never brown. Yes. Always felt the same way, and you've always been older than your years. That's something that I think that all RH negatives experience, because I truthfully believe that this is not our first time here. And the knowledge that just, me, I mean, I've had people say, okay, where did you attend seminary? I didn't. Well, where did you attend Bible college? I didn't. Well, how do you know these spiritual things? I don't know. I don't know. It's not something that I sat down and, studied and said, wow, I'm gonna learn this. I mean, no. I guess one thing I can say is that I speak freely. I mean, I'm not really worried about, what people think. People can say, well, guy's a fruitcake, he's lost it, it's fine with me. I mean, I'm not going to lose any sleep over it. But just to let you know, I being RH Null, and like I said, I had no idea. I had no idea about this. This was, let's see, this was approximately 20 years ago. And I had no idea. I mean, I had never heard of RH Null, nothing. Didn't know anything about the, RH negative either, and was, married, and my wife had 2 miscarriages. And so after the second miscarriage, we went to a world-renowned fertility clinic. They have successfully helped couples from all over the world have children, and it's a husband and wife team, and they're great. I mean, their success rate is phenomenal, and they work with a leading genetic expert in Chicago for their tough cases or whatever. And so my wife and I went, and they gave us blood test, extensive blood test, extensive genetic test. We went back a week later. They unsealed hers, and everything was normal. They unsealed mine, and they sealed it back up, both. And they said, can you come back? Can you take would you take another test and come back in a week, because your tests have been compromised? And I said, compromised? How? Well, no idea, but they've certainly been compromised, because this is just, yes, it's just, can you come back, because we need to get this right? I said, sure. So went through another round of the blood test, genetic test, and everything was set. So a week later we came back, and there was the man, his wife, the doctor, his wife, who was also a doctor, and their nurse. They're sitting there. They open my test results, and all 3 of their heads jerk back. The nurse gasped out loud, just like she had seen something that just scared her so bad. And I said, what's wrong? And the doctor said, he says, he was just, he couldn't even speak. He says, you just have a rare blood type. And I said, how rare? And he said, the most rare. I said, okay. And he says, but your genetic makeup, he said, it's the same. It's the same as the previous test that I'd taken, that he said that it had been compromised. And he said, I've never seen anything like this. And the nurse is like frozen. And I'm thinking, okay, did I morph into an alien gray or what? Because, I mean, that's how I felt. And so he said, do you mind if I fax your test results to our mentor in Chicago, one of the leading genetic experts in the United States? And I said, I don't mind at all. So he said, okay, give me 30, 45 minutes. He came back, and the atmosphere changed. The atmosphere changed in the room dramatically. He came back, and they kept their distance. And he says, I said, well, what's the verdict? And he said he thought it was a joke. He thought we were playing a practical joke on him. He said, you almost had me. He says, ha ha. And he said, it's no joke. He said, we told him it's no joke. He said, the man whose test results you have, he said, is sitting in our office waiting. And he said that the geneticist told him, he says, if you're serious and you're not joking, then the one sitting in your office is not a man. And when he said that, I'm like, okay, I'm dreaming, This cannot be real. And my wife at the time, she's like looking at me like, whoa, what did I get myself into? She's looking at me like, okay, you didn't tell me about this. And I said, I always knew I was different, but this is a little much. And he said, I said, so are you telling me that I can't have children? And he said, what I can tell you is, he said, it's not her, it's you. He said, the geneticist, the expert said, he says, there is no medical, scientific, or biological known way. He said, by all biological, medical, scientific standards, he says, there is no way that we could even classify you as a human. And I'm like, great. I said, then what am I? And he said, we simply do not know. And I said, so you're telling me that I can't have children? And he said, no, you can have children, but only with a woman like you. And he said, and that would be like finding one grain of sand on all the beaches and deserts of the world. I said, so basically, I can't have children. And what it was is that it is reversed with me. Usually it's a mother that's Rh negative. Her body attacks the Rh positive DNA from the father. But with me, Rh negative, Rh null, her being B positive, her body attacked my DNA, the fetus, attacked it because it saw it as foreign and aborted it. And the last time, the third time, we were at like 17 weeks. Heartbeat was strong and everything, and they said this is great. They said there's only a 2% chance now that that this won't go full term. And a week later, she started hemorrhaging, and same thing happened. So that's all on me. I mean, matter of fact, they said that my genetic makeup was even more rare than my blood type. And it's like, man, you talk about life changing. I mean, that's just, it's not something that you want to hear. And so I asked to see my actual test results, and it says blood type RH null, of course. It says origin unknown, and then it says genetic makeup anomalous, origin unknown, or something like that. It says genetic markers anomalous / alien. I kid you not. Of course, I know that alien is, also medical term for unknown, but still, under the circumstances, it was it's quite something to see that in like all capital print. It's like, wow. Anyway, Jacob, you say 15, 20 years ago is when I found out that you were Rh negative. I donated plasma twice a week for quite a while. They paid me an extra $10 every time. When I asked why, they told me that I was. Yep. There you go. Right. They said that you say they didn't explain it at all, really. I had to do the research on it myself. Same here. They were very, very, very tight-lipped about it. I mean, it was like it was like pulling teeth. I said, just tell me what it is. I said, I can handle it. And that's when he says, there is no biological, medical, scientific, way. He says, from your genetic makeup, that that you can even be classified as a human. And Jacob, you say you are a man just without monkey blood. Well, if that was the case, then I would not have a problem with having children. But they said that would happen every time. And my wife at the time was taking the maximum dose of anti-rejection injections, because once they found out that they thought that it was just because I was Rh null, and they thought that anti-rejection drugs or whatever would keep her from miscarrying, and but it didn't. And she was taking the maximum, if not more, because we were really, really trying hard, and it just didn't take. And but those of you that want to share, like Cheryl, Jacob, April, I mean different things have happened to me throughout life. I mean, it's like as a child, I thought that everybody was like me, that they thought like I did, and I found out that wasn't the case. And different things. I have always been interested in the paranormal, the science, space, physics, just knowledge, I guess you could say. Just a sponge, just soaking up knowledge. One thing about me, just going to ask, but those of you that are Rh negative or possibly Rh null, do you find yourself, no matter how hard you try, you cannot learn something that you're not interested in. With me, if I'm not interested in it, forget it. I can't learn it. I mean, my attention span is gone before I even start. And now, if it's something that I'm interested in, I can learn it like the back of my hand and learn it very quick. But if it's something that I find boring, forget it. It's just not going to happen. And I think that most of us are that way. Jacob, you say, I didn't know about not being able to have kids. It makes sense, I guess. I've been through 4 miscarriages as well. Yeah, and that happens a lot, but it's mainly with a woman who is Rh positive. With a woman who is Rh negative, and the husband is Rh positive. And then I think after the first child, after she takes the injections, or and I can't think of what that's called now, but she takes the injections and she's fine, I believe, every pregnancy after that. But in my case, they said that they had never that it should not be a problem for a negative man to for a woman who is positive should not reject a negative male, DNA, but she did. So very, very strange. Definitely very strange. I myself, I mean, I've had, spiritual encounters, I guess you could say. And like you said, Jacob, I have always been older than my years. Even as a child, I preferred talking to adults rather than, playing with kids, playing with other kids. I don't know. I'd just like to hear, more about your experiences and how you feel. One thing too is when I was in kindergarten or first grade, maybe both years, there were the school here in Texas, Fort Worth. They had the magnet program for gifted children, and they, told my mom that I was very gifted and that they wanted me in that magnet program, and so they placed me in the quote unquote gifted program, with these other kids, and I loved it. It was a challenge and learning new things, and it was very cool because I got to get out of the boring classes that I was in, and just basically it was like a free-for-all, and it's like, looking back, it's like we were always monitored. They were always monitoring us. I mean, just watching us. They would say, write on the board, whatever you want, well, man, that was right up my alley, so I'll do that. And, but then, they did something that was very unusual. They would come each week to our house. It was, 2 men dressed in suits, like brown suits. It wasn't like Men in Black or anything. But nevertheless, it was two men dressed in suits. They would come by, and they would bring me coloring books to color each week. And these weren't normal coloring books. These were coloring books that had like UFOs, little men, little green men, or peeking out from behind a tree, or just unusual things like that. And they would say, okay, if you color this, you stay within the lines, and you do a good job, then you get to choose a prize from this list. And it was like a real crappy camera, or like some prize that I didn't give a damn about. I didn't care about that. It's like, yeah, okay, wow, And the one man would be talking to me, and the other man would be like observing me, like just watching me. Monitoring. You go back to the watchers in the Bible. The watchers, what are they doing? They're watching, they're monitoring, they're calculating, and that's exactly what they were doing. What they didn't know is even at that age, I was monitoring both of them. I knew what they were doing. I mean, I just somehow knew it. And so they would leave, they would come back, and good job, good job. You colored the whole coloring book. Truth is, I didn't. My mother did, and it's like that just was not my cup of tea. Was coloring, but my mom enjoyed it, so hey, that's great. And they never knew the difference. But thinking back now, how many children did those men visit, and why? Why did they go to the house whenever I was already in the program at school? Well, 2008, it was like 2:30 in the morning. I'm on my laptop, and I'm looking up certain things and piecing things together. I'm not looking up anything that is that would set off any alarm bells or put me on the radar by itself, but together it proves that it was exactly what I thought it was, because my computer screen went black from the top down, like completely black. My cell phone rang, and it's this private number. And of course, at that time, 2:30 in the morning, I answered it, and this man on the other end of the phone says, "We know what you're doing." And I'm like, who the hell is this? And he says, "We've been monitoring you a long time." I'm like, yeah, you're funny. Yeah. And he says, "This is no joke." And he had a really, really very strong German accent. He says, "This, hey, Nazarene, glad you joined us." He says, "This is no joke." And I said, "Okay, well, what have I done to gain the attention of the illustrious?" And I gave the 3-letter governmental agency, and he says, "No." He says, "No." He says, "We're not part of that." And I said, "Okay." I said, "Then what are you?" And he says, "Think bigger." He says, "Don't think so much as, countries think global." I said, "Oh, okay. Global, all right. Cool." I said, "So who, what's your name? What agency?" He says, "We have no name. We don't need a name." I said, okay. I said, what are your credentials? And man, he popped them off. Boom, 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 boom. And I said, waited about, a minute or two. I asked him again, what are your credentials again? Boom, boom, boom. Same thing, just spot on, And I'm like, man, this is no joke. I mean, this guy's for real, And he said, look, he says, I can have a team at your front door, he said, in 10 minutes. And I said, well, come on. And I'm thinking, oh, man, why did I say that? And then I said, but you and I both know that that's not what we want. He says, I agree. And I'm thinking, what in the hell is going on here? And so I, talked, he, said, different things. And he told me personal things that nobody else knew, like that when I went to the store, general time I went to the store, what I bought, everything. I mean, he knew my mom's maiden name. He knew things about me that, I didn't think anybody else knew. And they certainly had a dossier on me big time. And I could hear computers or machinery running in the background, as well as people speaking what sounded like German to me. And he said that his name was Special Agent Frankfurt. And he says, I have Special Agent Munich and Special Agent Berlin here with me. And I said, oh, wow, really original, German, city names. That's cool. And he says, I said, why are you bothering me? I said, what have I done? He says, you know what you're doing. He says, let's just say you know more than the average citizen, and that concerns us. He says, we just want to make sure you're keeping your nose clean. His exact words. And I said, I am. And he says, yeah, this information is, he says, is not, ready to be disseminated or something like that. And I said, wasn't planning on it. And he says, okay, blah, blah, blah. And then he says, we'll be seeing you in the future. And I said, I know, for some reason. And click. My computer comes back on, and that was 2008, so soon be 12 years ago. Yeah, it was creepy to say the least. And I thought the guy was, somebody that was joking, but it didn't take long to. I mean, you could just tell by the way that this man handled himself, the way he spoke. He was not joking, and he wielded some authority, and he was not afraid to use it. I don't know, but very, very creepy. Anyway, Jacob, you say, then my ex-wife is arch negative as well because she had my daughter. My ex-sister-in-law had to have that treatment when she had my first nephew. I know an awful lot of people who are arch negative. And then you say, is it synchronicity? Well, synchronicity is very, very strong in lives of Rh negatives and to an astonishing degree. Absolutely. Cheryl, you say my son's wife was married and tried to get pregnant for 11 years. She has tests done all through the years. Said her eggs could not mature long enough. She got with my son, and within 3 months she was pregnant. Turns out my son is also Rh negative. Do you think that is why? Plus, her ex had a few other kids, so it wasn't his issue. Let's see. Okay, you say that your son's wife was married. Is his wife RH negative? Because if she is, then, and her ex was positive, then that's probably why. And then if she's negative and your son's negative and she got pregnant so fast, then that's also why, because they match, you know. So, yeah, Jacob, you say electronics act funny around me constantly. Seriously, cell phones go crazy, computers freeze up, and so on. Absolutely. I'm glad that you brought that up, because that does happen a lot. Matter of fact, I've had a lot of problem getting my internet set up out here where we moved out in the country. I'm talking way out in the country. And love it here, but man, I had to have Dish bring out the largest satellite dish they have, actually a HughesNet dish, and it still wasn't working. So I called them last night. I was on the phone with them. Finally got everything, you know, set up. Hopefully I won't have any more problems, but man, it's just been pure hell. I mean, just one thing right after another. And but the man was here when he initially put it in, you know, hooked everything up. And when he finished, he says, okay, he said, if you'll sign here, he says, with your finger, you know, on the screen or whatever. So I went to sign, and when my finger touched his tablet, it froze. And he says, I said, it won't allow me to write. And he said, he said, it's froze. He says, let me reset it. So he reset it, and he says, okay, so it's good now. Again, I touched it, whole thing froze. He says, wow, that's unusual. He said, you know. So he reset it, and he says, okay, he says, I'm signing right now. He says, okay, you sign right here. As soon as I touched it, it froze again. He says, I'm just going to tell them that you were unable to sign it. I'm like, okay, that's fine. And so that's something that happens with me. Watches go dead, or just, you know, and computers, yeah, they act up, sadly. Okay. Cheryl, you said yes, she is O negative. That would be why, because they match. I mean, he's negative, she's a negative, so absolutely. You say, my family hates me around them. They know something will go belly up in the electricity depot. Can wear a simple watch or even show without something going haywire. True story. Yeah. Yeah, right, Jacob. Time to use the stylus. Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, that's you know, something that is very true. Is there was especially when you get upset, you get aggravated, you get frustrated, you get angry, or even sad or whatever, you know, look out. There was I had a terrible case of pneumonia in 2003, and it was in both lungs, and they told me, they said this was at an urgent care clinic, and they said, we are going to call an ambulance now because we believe that you're having a heart attack, that you may be having a heart attack from the fluid in your lungs. And I said, well, I'm not. And they said, how can you be so sure of that? And I said, I'm telling you, I'm not. And so they brought in this EKG and they hooked it up to me. And when they listened to it, they just like threw the stethoscope or whatever it was off. And they're like, oh my God, there's so much, they're just, static, or just, that noise is just, And I literally told them, I said, if you'll give me 5 minutes, I said, this was so bad that the first EKG machine, they took it out and they brought another one in. It was still this very loud screeching noise that could only be described as like, I don't know, barbed wire in an empty dryer, and it was just horrible. And I said, but if you'll give me 5 minutes, I said, and then come back in, I said, do it. I said, there won't be any noise. And they're looking at me like I'm crazy. So they give me 5 minutes, they come back in and do it, and everything's fine. And no more sounds like that. I knew what it was. I took care of it. And my wife can testify to that. I mean, and then they had me sign waivers, like 3 or 4, waivers saying that they were not guilty if I died, because I refused to go to the hospital. And I said it doesn't end that way. Story doesn't go that way. It's not written that way. And they're looking at me like I'm crazy. And so I go home, and they call me every day for 3 days to make sure I'm still alive. And here I am. So, Jacob, you're right. The strongest electromagnetic source in the human body is the heart. The heart actually has, I believe it's 150,000 times the output that the brain does, and it's just amazing, because there are people that you come in contact with, and you feel and you feel that this force, it's like a bubble, and some people you can feel it like physically. You can feel it, yeah, Jacob, exactly. You say I can do the same thing. I can lower my blood pressure at will. My body temperature is 99.6 every time it's taken. Exactly right. And if I can do that, although this noise was not what you would, this noise was not what you would call medical or physical. I'm just going to say that it was something more, and I knew what it was, and I told them. So I said, just give me 5 minutes, and I'll, and there again, it wasn't a big deal to me. But if I had told them, if I'd said what it was, they would have said, okay, psych ward for you. But the proof's in the pudding. When I came back, you could have heard a pin drop. So just because, just because people don't believe or they may not understand does not make you crazy. And that's, but the heart, let's see. Okay. Yeah, the heart's electrical field is about 60 times greater in amplitude than the electrical activity generated by the brain. And there's the heart is about 100,000 times stronger electrically, and up to 5,000 times stronger magnetically than the brain. That's what I was thinking about. And then it says that there's that it forms a double torus, like a double torus. I guess it would be where it turns inside on itself. It's just continual. There's a vortex at the head and at the feet, and it's just it's just continual turning, and really need the graphics to show, but there's a distance or bubble or shield, literally, that when somebody with, say, bad intentions, when they come into your place or your bubble or your area or your shield where you're shielded, you can feel it. I mean, just like Crystal said, that I'm sorry, Cheryl said that she could sense when someone's bad, or can read them. That's how. I mean, that's how is you just feel that person's intentions, and vice versa. They can feel yours, and it is not uncommon for those who are Rh negative to be targeted in very, very strange ways, very unsettling ways. Like you're like with me, there's been times when I've been out shopping or something, and I feel like somebody's looking at me, and I look up, and it's always a man, standing maybe by a clothes rack or something, or standing by, just very strange, just out of place, just staring at me. And I lock eyes with him, and it's like there's a battle going on, and I don't break eye contact because I feel like that would be like showing weakness or something, and I'm thinking, this person doesn't have good intentions. I mean, who stands and just stares at somebody, stares at a total stranger, unless you're wanting trouble? And I just chalk that up to spiritual warfare. But they're always the ones that breaks eye contact first. And it's nothing like macho, like a macho battle or anything like that. I mean, I have no need for that. I'm not interested in that. But, I could go into some pretty creepy times when there's been more than one, there's been several at one time, and it's like, wow, kind of like an ambush or whatever. But, this is, it's definitely a subject that we could go on and on and on about, but hopefully we've talked about enough tonight just to lay the groundwork. And those of you that are interested in knowing more, and that would possibly like to talk more concerning this, maybe like a different show, same topic, you can send me an email at the Texorcist podcast at gmail.com, and you can also join our Facebook group at let me get that real quick. Make sure that it's www.facebook.com/Texorcist Live / and that's www.facebook.com/Texorcist Live / that's the Facebook group. So if you have any personal experiences that you want to share, or questions, or wondering what this is all about, I don't have all the answers, but I'd be more than happy to share with you what I do know and some of my theories. But definitely I read something the other day about, it says if you are Rh negative, so especially if you are Rh null, and I just cringed, it says, and you're on Facebook, says, rest assured you are being monitored big time. You are being monitored much more than someone that's not Rh negative or Rh null. Why is that? Well, as far as the Project Oak Tree, now I have no idea if this is true or not, but Project Oak Tree is supposedly it is a government-funded CIA operation where they are tracking the Rh negatives because they believe that they are Nephilim hybrids. And I'm like, okay, I don't know if it's true. I have no idea, but it could be. It could be true. And at least it is feasible. And if it's feasible, then it's possible. And to be honest with you, I wouldn't put it past the government doing that. So definitely it's something that could be. So if you have time, maybe Google Project Oak Tree and read about it. There's this guy, researcher that was talking about it, James Casbolt. I don't know, but James Casbolt kind of lost it and kind of went crazy, and I don't know if it was what it was from. Maybe they targeted him or something. I have no idea, but he took his girlfriend hostage with a shotgun or something, and lost his mind and served time in prison. And I have no idea. I'm just saying that just take it with a grain of salt. But I have talked to and still talk to. I stay in touch with people who are definitely targeted individuals that they have sent me pictures, videos of different things happening in their apartment, in their homes, and things that can't really be sure if it's on the physical or if it's a spiritual problem or if they're one and the same. And Jacob, you say here lately those people have been avoiding me, and I can't say I'm not happy about that. You say simulated humans, no soul, transport for entities that aren't human or even of a physical nature. Yes, and that's something that is coming to a world near you very soon. You say I've known that since before I even went on Facebook in 2011. They don't know what we are. That's what really scares them. I think you're right, and with me, with my experience, I can definitely say when they saw that I was RH Null, they were shocked. But then when they saw my genetic makeup, they were scared. And I kept asking my wife, I said, did I do something? Did I say something to threaten them or to make them feel threatened? She said, no. She said, but they're not friendly like they were. And I mean, the whole atmosphere just turned dark. And after we had talked and everything, she told me, she said, I'm really feeling threatened. And I said, yeah, I am too. I said it wouldn't surprise me if men with hazmat suits and rifles came through the door and said, come with us. And I said, I think we should leave. So we got up and left. And a couple of years later, I called. Don't know why that I didn't. Maybe because it was such a life-changing event that happened. I mean, being told that by doctors, experts, it's quite something. But about 2 years later, I called and requested my test results, and I was put on hold for what seemed like forever. And the lady came back and said that there was a leak in the roof, and that my file was destroyed. And she apologized, and like, okay, destroyed? You mean it was filed? Sent in and filed. So, archived, I guess. I don't know. But that's right. Jacob, they're already here, the Sims. Yep. And that's a whole nother show. And you know how I am all about the simulation theory, that we are not living in base reality. We are living in a simulation, and I believe that the interface between this simulation, this virtual reality that we have accepted as reality itself, I believe that our very DNA is an interface with this virtual reality, and that it's kind of formed like a symbiotic relationship, literally. And more when you read the news, especially the technology and how it's increasing, you will see that they are beginning to store computer viruses, computer codes in DNA. So what you have to ask yourself is, what do we mean when we say biological? Do we mean living? Well, that's what we have supposed. That's what it used to mean, but what does living mean? And Dr. Geordie Rose of D-Wave quantum computers brought up that very question: what does it mean to be alive? And in my opinion, the word biological is just another term for advanced nanotechnology. Because when you look at the human body, you look at the human body, everything about it, what you're looking at is a machine. Now, you want to say, well, it's alive. No, it's a machine. It runs. But what happens to all machines? They break down. We age, right? We get sick. We die. The body dies. We don't. I mean, I'm not my body. I'm my spirit having a bodily experience, and that's a whole nother show too. Maybe next show we can talk about how a body's just that, a machine. Matter of fact, a biological machine, a temple that Solomon's temple is based on. You have the seven major bodily systems: respiratory, digestive, neurological. Solomon's temple had 7 stations, 7 things that were performed just like the human body. So it says in the Bible that God's temple is man. Solomon's temple was, if it even really ever existed, was a blueprint of the human body. Absolutely. Anyway, well, we've gone on 2 hours, 20 minutes, so I'm going to say good night from Texas, and if you, like I said, if anyone needs to get in touch with me or wants to share something with me, questions, anything I can help you with, or maybe you have topics, show ideas, whatever, please let me know. You can email me at the texorcistpodcast@gmail.com. Love and light to you all. Love you all. Good night from Texas. See you next time.